Yeah, I mean, my name is Bruce, and my middle name's Lee, and my username or my game like stuff used to be Bruce Lee 94, but I decided, to just like kind of stray a little bit away from, just copy pasting my name into my gamer tag. Um, and one of my friends would call me Bruce Leeroy. Um, and I was like, you know what, I like that a lot, and so I started. I just went with that.
So, have you seen The Last Dragon?
I have not. No.
Oh my gosh, you need to like stop everything that you're doing and watch that movie. It's fantastic.
What
And everybody loves your name because of The Last Dragon. So you should check that out.
is it like on Netflix or something?
I'm sure you can find it online one place or another.
The Last Dragon. It was 1985.
That sounds about right. Basically, the way you fly helicopters, it makes perfect sense that your name is Bruce Leroy. It's been a while since I did an interview, but I have been watching and loving your helicopter videos. I really feel like your YouTube channel deserves a lot more attention.
I actually have a second YouTube channel with like a lot more attention on it, but I keep it secret because it's I just keep it secret. It's where I post all my art and but really where I spend most of my time. I mean, I do spend a lot of time playing War Thunder, but when I'm not playing War Thunder and I'm not working, I'm usually working on art. And I'll occasionally I make tutorials on how to make 3D models and like tips and tricks and how to do things that really aren't anywhere else online. Um, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I kind of invented something, or at least I refined the craft of it, and so far I'm the only one online with the skill and expertise. And I don't know, it's just nice because a lot of people like it and they recognize it. And I just don't like talking about it with people I know personally though. So I usually keep it away from my War Thunder stuff because that's where a lot of my personal friends they'll watch that stuff. If that makes any sense. I did not know. That is a picture from the F-Zero Falcon Dunsetsu anime. I don't remember what. I don't know if that's exactly what it's called, but it's from the F-Zero anime, and that's a frame of Captain Falcon telling people not to watch the TV too closely, like because in Japan. Yeah, it's
I love
amazing.
it.
If you haven't watched that show, you should totally watch it. Watch the Japanese version though; it's on YouTube somewhere.
It
Um,
sounds like we've just arranged a media trade. You've got to watch The Last Dragon, and I've got to watch F Zero Densetsu.
honestly,
Sounds good.
you don't have to watch the whole show, but definitely watch like the intro of all the shows and watch the ending of the anime. It is that ending. I'm sure you've seen it before, like on the internet, like 10 years ago, because it was like kind of a meme back then. But it kind of died off, just because F-Zero is not that popular. Uh,
You know, I think I was actually working at a car wash and sleeping at night 10 years ago. So now I might be I might be new to that meme. So what were you saying?
I was just gonna. That was it. I was just saying that F-Zero is not that popular, so the meme just kind of died off. It was really when Brawl was like, came out and everyone was like super hyped about it, and everyone was making Captain Falcon memes, and that was pretty much it. Um, but I love Captain Falcon and F-Zero, and it's unfortunate because I loved playing F-Zero GX, which is the GameCube game, in VR, but my new VR headset doesn't work with the emulator software, so I'm really sad because it's like one of my favorite things to do. So that's kind of why I've been doing a lot of War Thunder. Um, I do more War Thunder than I normally do.
From what I've seen of F Zero, it's extremely fast paced madness, and to play it in VR sounds pretty wild, or to view it in VR.
It is like I can't explain it. It's just so much fun. You're going so fast. You have so much control over your vehicle, it's not like in Mario. It's not like the newer Mario Karts where they like kind of guide you on the track. Like there's no, they don't hold your hand in any way. If you die, if you fall off the track, it's over. Like you don't come back, and the turns are really sharp. It's just there's so many things about it that's fun, and there's a lot of I guess they're called, I guess you can call them bugs, but there's a lot of tricks you can use to go really really fast and turn probably sharper than you should, and just using that to like beat the game on really hard. It's just fun to fine tune your skills at racing.
Yeah, I watched some speed runs where they like bump the edge really fast,
Oh yeah,
and it increased their speed way beyond the normal maximum. All kinds of other fun and extremely dangerous and demanding exploits like that. But you mentioned that you've been playing more War Thunder now, and for those that have not been introduced to your channel, which honestly, I've never seen more thrilling helicopter gameplay in this game. The way you like tilt the nose down and circle in this tight strafing around your targets and just vaporize things. I watched your Viper gameplay where you're playing, oh geez, what's it called? The Assault
yeah.
game mode, and you're like one-shotting Leo 2s with Hydra rockets.
I was actually well, I was also using AGM Hellfires as like I don't know which part you were watching, but I like to occasionally use my Hellfires like Hydra rockets, and I'll just I'll just shoot them off instead.
I noticed that.
Yeah, and that's usually what the one shotting was me hitting it with the Hydra rocket. I mean, a Hydra Hellfire missile.
Tell me more about War Thunder. You got into helicopters. Tell me how you started playing. Are you in a clan? And how did you end up being the... Oh, by the way, congratulations on your Thunder Show feature.
Thank you.
It did not do you justice whatsoever.
Okay,
but
I'm just glad I made it on there because it's nice to like, wow, people really like it. It's one thing when you do it and you're like, oh, I think I'm doing pretty good, and then other people are like, wow. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually pretty good, because I spend so much time doing it, and I try not to think about it too much, like about how good I am at helicopters compared to everyone else. But it's hard not to think about that sometimes. Anyways, so I guess I started off, I'd say December 2018. I withdrew from college, and I didn't drop out, but I took a little bit of a break, and I just had a lot of free time. And when you spend like 6 years in college doing nothing but like homework, staying up late, and just being busy 24/7, and then immediately going to, I have no purpose, I have nothing to do. That's when I started making art. I started working on 3D models, and I started playing a lot more War Thunder. I knew that I wanted to like maximize my efficiency in War Thunder. So what I did is I spent a lot of time coming up with the most ideal control scheme for me, I guess. But I started off with the Xbox controller because that's what I know best. But then I realized, wait, I can use my mouse while using my Xbox controller. There's no reason I can't. So I then incorporated that into it, and that's one of the reasons why I do so good, is because I have such a very well made control scheme, and it's very consistent amongst all the different vehicles. But I think it's also because I played a lot of Battlefield 4. That might be another reason why. Hold on a sec. Oh, hello there. Sorry, there's an M26 right next to me. He just like stuck above me. Yeah, I've been in a match for a while. Okay, I just finished the match. What I was saying is, I spent a lot of time playing War Thunder and making art, and I didn't really have much of a personal life at that time because all my friends were in a different city or they were graduated. And I think December I didn't start making videos. When was the first video I made? I think the first one I made was me. I was in a Cobra. Let me see. I'm gonna look on my channel. Okay, so it was 5 months ago. So I didn't start making videos until like halfway through this year started. Um, so I did play a lot of War Thunder though after in 2019, but I was mostly making art at that time, and I slowly got closer to helicopters. I didn't have them yet until I like about I'd say the summer this year, or not this year. Christmas last year. My bad. For some reason, I thought it was a lot later in the year. And I really wanted to fly helicopters, so I grinded my ass off to get them. And I finally got them. And I was like, okay, cool. What do I do now? And I tried out Heli EC with a bare boned AH-1G, and I just realized how hard I got my ass kicked by all the K-50s, and I didn't know what to do. So I was like, okay, I can't do ground realistic because I don't have any land vehicles that high. Because another thing to know, I mostly did air battles. I didn't really do ground battles um, until I really got helicopters. Then I was like, oh wow, I really love helicopters, but I want to play ground battles, so I need tanks. But before they changed ground sim, you could bring in just a helicopter. Um, and I think it was like you were allowed one air spawn and two ground spawns. So I would just go in the battle with just one helicopter, and I would also try to occasionally work on my tanks if I could, so I could eventually have a tank to go in with my helicopter, which I did eventually get the M163. You know what that one is, right? The Vulcan gun.
Little ground-born Bert.
Yeah, that thing that was fun. But I eventually found out that with the K-50, it was really hard to play top tier helicopters the way I wanted to, which I love the AH-1F, the Cobra with the 20 mil, but I just couldn't really do that a K-50 or at the time they didn't have the K-52, but yeah, I would just play the crap out of those things, and I would record my footage using just the War Thunder VR box that it originally came up with. I just had my game DVR constantly running, and I would just save clips, save highlights. Obviously, I got shot down a lot. Like most of my kills were actually MBTs because I was just flying so close, and all they have to really do is just shoot out your transmission or your engine. And since your helicopter only has one engine and one transmission, you're toast.
Yeah, I think that's still going on in War Thunder, where it's absolutely ridiculous as far as like how much durability certain components of your helicopter have. Like you can take a single rifle caliber machine gun bullet to your I don't know what it's called, but yeah, the transmission right above the engine, and it slowly destroys the entire transmission. It's like, what's going on here? And then I think all of the engines are actually modeled as a single engine, even when there's two engines in the X-ray. I think there's a certain amount of lack of effort to helicopter design.
See, that's the thing. I was going to mention that. I don't know if it's a bug. I don't know if it was intended that way, but I feel like a lot of the helicopters that have two engines, it's treated as one. So when one engine goes out, both of them go out. And I know I played a lot of I played a lot of AH-1Z, which was the first twin engine Cobra. And I would get instantly down. I would get shot down instantly when someone shot out my engine. And I couldn't tell if they were shooting out both or just one. But I noticed when I started playing the Apache, I was surviving so much longer. The AH-64A, I'm pretty sure that one is modeled with separate engines, with where they're not treated the same. And I think that might be one of the reasons why it survives so long.
I think what I've really noticed, because I've been with helicopters since closed beta, all of the earliest helicopters to come to the game have a very simplistic flight model. Like, it ignores the rotor completely, the tail rotor. You wobble a lot because they don't have the stability that helicopters naturally have. Like, it's almost like they took a prop plane's flight model and just pointed the propeller up. You know what I mean?
Kinda.
The way that if you fly a Huey, the way the Hueys like to wobble, and I don't know if it matters as much the way you fly, but when you're using mouse flight and simplified controls, they'll just wobble. Not quite on their own. There is a reason that they do it. But
when you say wobble, do you mean like the helicopter's like shaky, or it just like it feels like it's the helicopter's a little tipsy or drunk?
What it does is so mouse flight corrects for certain things to keep you on course, right? Like your instructor will kick the rudder over if you're in a fixed wing aircraft. Well, in the Huey, it overcorrects, and then it overcorrects for how do you put it? When you're rotating, yaw, I guess. I think it's yaw. Anyway.
Yeah, that's roll.
It's roll. It's overcorrecting for roll. Anyway. And then with the early Cobras, they have similar issues, but then you get to the later Cobras and they don't have that particular issue. But the Viper really does have like 2 engines that count as one as far as the game's concerned. So it's really just one engine. And then you get to the Apaches, which are a much more recent addition to the game, and things are modeled a lot more complexly, a lot more diligently. That's been my impression. Does that make sense?
Kind of. The Apache definitely feels a lot different than the Viper. By Viper, you mean the H-1Z, right? I forget if it's called the Super Cobra or the Viper. I'm pretty sure you're right. I think it is Viper. But yeah, I haven't flown the Longbow yet, but I've flown the 64A enough to know to recognize the difference in the flight models. I have no I guess hypothesis on why they're different. I don't know. I don't really dig too much in that. I just hop in the helicopter and I try to fly it to the best of my abilities. I don't try to worry about if Gaijin is making them different or not. I just get in them and I have fun. Really, that's the best way to explain what I do. I just I do it to have fun, and I wouldn't really do it for any other reason because of that. Sometimes if I want to get a little better, if I want some practice, I'll go into ground assault because it's like I can fly a lot more risky and I can practice aiming a lot more without getting shot down as much. Because originally I didn't know that when I would say before the Apache came out, I didn't even know you could take helicopters into ground assault, and I spent all that time grinding my helicopters and playing them in ground sim almost exclusively.
Before the Apache came out, I think you couldn't. That was actually, I think it was about the time the Apache was introduced that Gaijin was like, hey, you can use helis in ground assault now. And I'm like, sweet! So I queue up for ground assault. Nobody was playing ground assault.
Yeah, I know they said that later. I think that was a reminder, though. I'm pretty sure that it was a feature. It's just a feature that they low-key implemented and they just didn't advertise.
That makes sense.
Because I really don't remember, because I never tried ground assault with just helicopters before I saw them. I know they mentioned it in one of the shooting range videos. Or maybe, yeah, I think it was the shooting range video. Anyways, yeah, I pretty much just did exclusively sim, and since I had a really good control scheme, I was using joystick, and I had VR, I could very easily play sim in helicopters, whereas most people who have a mouse, they couldn't really. I have a lot of friends who try to play sim with the helicopter sim with just a mouse, and in other helicopters you might be able to get away with it, but you just couldn't really do that in the Huey, because the Huey doesn't have a stability augmentation system that lets you, I guess, auto trim the helicopter in simulator. For people who don't know, in simulator mode, it turns off auto trim for all vehicles, and helicopters are not very stable things to fly because there's a lot of forces acting in different directions. Like basically, when the helicopter blades spin one way, the helicopter wants to spin the other way. So that's why they have the the torque blade in the back. But that causes the helicopter to want to roll and do it. I'm not going to try to explain helicopter physics right now, but it's funky. And when you're flying, it sometimes will feel like your helicopter's drunk, but that's just how helicopters fly. Um, but I didn't mind flying with manual control on because again I had a joystick, and I actually learned that manual control is actually sometimes a better alternative because you have there's like a delay when you're on the dampening stability augmentation system mode or whatever, the SAS mode. There's like a delay between inputs, and I don't know if they did that to base it on real life. I have no clue, but if you turn that off, yes, your helicopter flies like a little tipsy, but you have faster input on your helicopter, and you can move it around. You can basically turn it around a lot faster, but just not as smoothly.
I noticed that. I usually have to knock back the collective quite a bit. Otherwise, when I'm doing aggressive maneuvers, the Papa Snail just says no. So like you'll input the commands to do the maneuver, and then you can feel the autopilot toning way back your inputs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you lower your collective from like 100% to like 80% is what you mean, right?
Oh, I'll drop if I want to do a tight loop. I'll drop it down to like 60 or 40, and then it's just the autopilot doesn't take over as badly then, which is it's nice.
Well, it's not just the autopilot. It's just your helicopter. It can't turn. I don't know how to explain this, but lowering your collective. I have to do that too, even without mouse aim or mouse flying. And I think it has to do with because there's just so much force put on the rotor blades. It can't pull them down far enough because you know how pitching and rolling in a helicopter works, right? It changes how the discs. It changes the angle that the disc is relative to your helicopter, and then that causes the helicopter to roll one way or another. And when you have the collective very high, I think that's putting. And this is my hypothesis. I don't know for sure, but I think that's putting speeds, and it's not letting you, I guess, angle that disc, far enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of like how if you're going really fast in a plane, your ailerons don't turn all the way. Like they won't completely deflect because there's just so much force being put on them. Like that's why those planes have those booster upgrades, like the new boosters, and like this is on almost every plane where that it allows you to deflect your ailerons at higher speeds. That's kind of the same concept of why lowering your collective lets you turn faster in your helicopter.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. It's sort of the idea. Well, first off, to put it really simply, the way most of your maneuvering works in a helicopter is you're actually tilting the entire rotor.
Yeah.
And then everything else responds to that. And what else was I going to say? I completely lost my train of thought. Anyway. Oh, right. I got it. I love that aspect of helicopters, and I'm glad that I'm actually really happy with the way that especially the newest helicopters have been modeled aerodynamically in the game. You feel this push and pull of the things you want to do and the things that can realistically happen. And like once you learn what you can get away with and really push things, it's so active to fly a helicopter. Like I do a lot of flying aircraft too. I love to fly CAS, and that's really an environment where you're pushing your aircraft to the limit because you want to get real close to your target to drop that bomb, but you also want to not slam into the ground.
Oh yeah.
And with a helicopter, you're playing with a collective all the time. You're performing these maneuvers that would be almost impossible for a fixed-wing aircraft, or completely impossible. And then you are so much more exposed when people get eyes on you because you move so much slower than an aircraft that you hug the terrain even more than a top tier jet, and it really does make for exciting and dynamic gameplay that is also pretty challenging with the kind of things that you can face. So Helicopters in War Thunder, super unbalanced experience, but when you really get into it like you have, there really isn't anything like it.
You can hear me right now, right? I changed headsets because the microphone's better on this headset.
Yeah, nice and clear.
Yeah, I was using my Rift microphone, and I was like, you know what? It's probably not a good microphone. But yeah, it's I don't know. I love helicopters in this game, and I didn't understand how collective worked for a while. Like when I first started, I just left it at 80% because I was like, okay, I don't know why bring it up to 100% because every time I do that, it lowers my RPM and it causes me to like start falling to the ground. But yeah, I'd recommend if anyone gets their hands on a VR headset to try out War Thunder in VR, specifically helicopters and planes. Tanks, they're cool, but unless you're doing sim, tanks just aren't that fun. You'll just get wrecked so many times. Because it's just like you can't really use third person. There's so many bugs in VR. I'm not going to name them all, but tanks in VR, not bugs, sorry. There are bugs, yes, but there's a lot of features, I guess, that Gaijin implemented to prevent people from getting motion sick, which I understand, but they didn't allow these options to be toggled. So you're just kind of stuck with, what it is that they put at, whatever it is that they set. Like, for example, you don't turn, the camera doesn't turn with your turret in a tank. It's locked facing the hole. The position actually changes though, so my position in 3D space when I'm turning the turret will change just like a bit so I stay on the commander hatch, but it doesn't rotate with it, if that makes any sense.
So you've got to rotate your headset. You've got to look to change your view. And yeah, that definitely could cause you to get some very fast motion sickness if your body feels like it's losing control of your motion.
I can't tell you. Well, it actually does it with SPAA, though, is the one type of tank it actually does rotate with your turret. And I guess that's because you need to be able to spin 360 degrees easily, because it is so hard aiming. But whenever there's a tank behind me, I just give up sometimes. I'm just like, I'm not even going to try. Because I have to turn my head backwards. I have to keep my hand on my mouse. So, if I'm looking back into my right and back into my left, it's a little awkward. But the worst part is that your reticle disappears after you've turned 90 degrees left or right. So I'm aiming blind, having to look right behind me on my gaming chair. And I have to, in order to aim, I have to go into gunner view. But gunner view is locked to the front of the hull of the tank. So I have to look backwards, or I have to look forward again to look at my gunner sight. And it's so weird and wonky, but I've been getting better at it. But it is so hard if someone flanks behind me and when I'm in a VR, I can't. It's so hard. But it does give you advantage in other areas. One of the reasons why I guess I'm able to get away with such good helicopter gameplay is because I have. So, have you ever played a first-person shooter where, like, Escape from Tarkov's probably? Have you ever played Escape from Tarkov?
No, but I've watched some gameplay. Tell me about it.
So, I haven't played too much Escape from Tarkov, but one of the things that's notorious about that game is the audio, is hearing people before you see them. And so the way audio works in video games is most video games, it's stereo output. Like it's there's no 3D audio. It's like you can't hear above or below you, right? but there is like left and right, like so you know how when dogs tilt their head when you're like talking to them, they do that to, I guess, um, to detect the sound better, because the sound will reach one ear before the other, and that's how you know something's to your left or right. Like when I snap, like if I snap to my right, it reaches my right ear before my left ear, and at different volumes, and that's how I know the sound is to my right. And the same thing in video games. Like if a sound is louder in my right earphone over my left one, it's to my, the object that's making all that noise is to my right. So when you have a headset that lets you constantly, move that, thing around, uh, to pinpoint exactly where a location is, uh, that gives you a huge advantage. I don't know if anyone really knows I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but
Oh
it's
yeah, absolutely.
it's a huge advantage in VR, or in War Thunder, because the VR lets me continue flying and aiming without having to change. Like I can look around just using my head, but like I can also pinpoint the audio. Like if something's behind a building, a good example is that well, maybe not a good example. Like obviously that the video that was on Thunder Show, like that one, I could hear those guys in that building below me. I didn't really need the VR audio for that part in particular. But there's a lot of times where I'll be like on a night map and I'm just constantly scanning, looking left and right, and then I'll hear a noise, and then like I'll move my head like 10 degrees, kind of like a radar almost. Like I'll move it 10 degrees left and right, kind of somewhat rapidly to pinpoint its exact location. I basically keep turning my head left and right until the audio is the exact same volume in both ears. And I'm like, okay, I'm locked on. That's where the guy is. And I just keep looking that way, and I eventually find him.
Yeah, inside of about 30 meters or so, you can be super accurate with that method. I use that without a VR headset, but it's a little bit harder because the soundscape in War Thunder is under construction right now.
Yeah.
And a bunch of sounds will just stop playing when other sounds are playing. So it's sort of a best guess situation, but when it works, it's extremely helpful. So I crank that volume up. I always wear a headset, and I do that turning my view left and right to pinpoint people. It's so satisfying, especially when you're on the ground and somebody's coming around a corner or cresting a hill, and you can tell that they're not listening, so they just blow through, and you just nail them.
Yeah, audio is one of those things that people, I guess, they don't look at too much when they play video games. They kind of overlook the audio aspect of it. That's the one reason why I don't really listen to music when I'm playing games, because I want to focus. I actually want to. I mean, sometimes I'll listen to music, but like if I'm just want to be chill and just relax a bit, and I'm not too worried about trying hard. But when I'm actually trying to like progress something, if like, all right, I just want to get this vehicle over with, uh, I'll focus, and I'll try not to listen to music, because it messes with my audio detection systems that I use. But another really important thing about VR, especially when it comes to flying, is the depth perception, and obviously the head tracking too. But the depth perception is a big one, because you can have a IR tracker, but you still won't to have the head tracking, but you still won't have that depth perception. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to exactly see how far away an object is. So you know how close you can skim the surface of whatever it is you're flying next to. And that's just such a huge advantage when flying helicopters, because you're flying, if you don't want to get shot down, you have to fly low and you have to fly fast. And having that depth perception lets you, I guess, figure out how far you need to be off the ground, or how much you'll need to pull up so you don't hit a building, or an invisible wall. Because I've ran into plenty of those, and that's kind of annoying. But anyways, that's another tangent. But yeah, that depth perception is a big one, and that's one of the reasons why I'm able to do so well in my helicopter videos, is because I incorporate all those things. I incorporate my good control scheme with head tracking, depth perception, and audio, the 3D audio, and being able to turn my head like almost like an audio radar system. Like I'm able to turn my head and scan like an actual radar, and then I can pinpoint on the location of an enemy without having to physically see them, or have they could be behind a building or something. I don't even have to be near them per se too. Like they sometimes can be far away if my engine's quiet enough or if I turned it off. So it's all those things just they do give me a huge advantage. I don't want to not give myself too much credit. I do practice a lot, and I do implement a lot of, I guess, tricks to hone my skills to I guess practice more. But I'm not gonna pretend like this hardware isn't giving me a huge advantage over other players. And sometimes I do feel kind of bad about it, like about doing really well in helicopters. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, I'm not using ATGMs, and there are other people who play in VR. I just don't know them. Like I don't know if they are or not. Because there's one time I was doing a tournament. One of the tournaments, I don't remember which one it was. It was the one with the P39s and the BF109s about, I'd say a couple months ago. Yeah, I was doing that one, and I ran into one of the best players of War Thunder. And he was at the top of the scoreboard too, of course. And he was using VR too. I was like, okay, so I'm definitely not the only person doing it, and definitely not the only person like at I guess in the upper bracket. So I think most of the higher level sim players, I would almost guarantee they have head tracking and VR, and they also probably are using a joystick too and not a mouse. Which I feel a lot of people who've been playing this game for years, it's really hard to get away from that. Because like if you try to convince me to like buy a joystick online, like an actual joystick, and to use it and a rudder, and you're like, oh, this is way better, trust me. It might be, but I'd be stubborn because this is what I'm used to. I'm used to the to the Xbox controller. What do you think? What's your opinion on it?
Well, I got my third born crying in the background, but mommy's coming in to save the day, so apologies for that. But I started getting into sim before I had kids, and when I had the ability to spend like 4 hours on an enduring confrontation event, when they used to last that long, and generally because of bomber spam, they get they're a little bit shorter. But I mean, you're still looking at like 2 hours. But I bought a pretty inexpensive joystick as far as they go, but it was a decent quality, and I really enjoyed it. It gave me definitely. I don't want to play sim aircraft without a joystick, but I could. It gives you so much more finesse and range of control, though. And I would definitely recommend for anybody that wants to get into top level aircraft gameplay, you got to use a joystick, because binary controls just don't give you the amount of finesse that you need to do really well. For example, in jets, it really makes a huge difference, but also in props. There's this thing called I think it's called a maximum energy turn. And it's the idea that whatever your aircraft is, it has a certain angle of attack in your turn that's going to give you the most energy while you're turning. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so you're producing energy faster than you're consuming it by maneuvering. And that's different for every aircraft, because it's not just based upon your horsepower, it's not just based upon drag. So you can pull off a maneuver like a maximum energy turn really smoothly in a P-47 if you're using a joystick. Does that make sense? So like you make a big circle, but you're producing so much energy that the BF-109 on your tail can't keep up, because he turns better, but he can't produce that amount of energy at that angle of attack. So that's an entire maneuver that's very effective, that's completely unavailable to people that are using mouse flight unless they it's just a lot harder to do with the mouse. So yeah, that's oh geez, what's his name? Greg's
Yeah.
It's called like Greg's Jetson Cars or something. He talks about all kinds of very, very interesting aerodynamic principles, but that's another tangent. So, as far as hardware, I think that War Thunder really does a good job of making the game accessible to everybody if you don't have a great PC, if you don't have a joystick or whatever fancy equipment. But having a more powerful PC gives you an advantage, and having more accessories gives you an advantage. And it's also something that you have to actually learn how to use. So, yeah, I think it's fair. And it's also a great incentive for people to invest some cash in hardware instead of just buying premium vehicles or whatever. Not that I look down on that at all. I definitely enjoy my my golden name tags. But tell me a little bit about life outside of War Thunder. You mentioned that you took a hiatus from college. What were you studying, and are you getting back into that? What's your plans for the near future?
Okay, so I graduated high school in 2013, and I wasn't able to get into the college I wanted to, which was Texas A&M University. So I was like, okay, I did really bad in high school. I was in the bottom 25% of my class, and my SAT scores were not that great either. So I went to a community college for a couple years, or it was really a year and a half. That was not a couple years, a couple semesters. And I was like, okay, I want to do engineering. I want to go to A&M and do engineering, but I can't get in. So I need to prove that I can make good grades. But I also want to, be efficient with my time, and I want to take classes that would transfer over to that school whenever I go over there. So basically, I take classes here, and they, I can exchange them for the same credits that I would need to graduate at A&M, if that makes sense. So I can take history here, and it'll count as if I took history at A&M. So that's what I did. I spent about 3 semesters trying to get as many A's as I could. I made a 4.0 my first 2 semesters, but I made a 3.8 my third semester. And then after that, actually no, I made a 4.0 my first, a 3.8 my second, and then I made a 4.0 my third semester. Calculus 2 got me. Yeah, I got to be in that class. And then I sent my application into A&M over the winter break, or not over, but I sent my application in before that, but I got it back. I got the approval in the winter, and I was like, oh, awesome, I'm going to A&M. But I didn't get into the mechanical engineering school that I signed up for, because you get to pick two. You get to pick 2 colleges, or I guess degrees. And my number 1 was mechanical, and I really wanted to do that, but I needed to have a backup just in case I couldn't get in. So I thought, okay, what's the closest thing to mechanical that takes the most similar classes? So, after a couple semesters, I could transfer in, and I'll take basically similar classes, the same classes as mechanical engineers, just maybe a couple different ones, and then I can just transfer to mechanical engineering later, and I've already taken most of the classes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But so I looked at all the other engineering degrees, and nuclear engineering was the closest one to mechanical. And it was also the one I was second most interested in, with the third being chemical engineering. But it turns out I didn't really like chemistry as much as I thought I would. So I really liked
a lot of memorization, if I recall correctly.
I liked chemistry at that community college. That was fun taking it there. I liked the professor and the class. I did not like taking it I took chemistry 1 at my community college, but I had to take chemistry 2 at the university. And that's when I realized, oh, I don't like chemistry.
You just didn't have chemistry.
Okay, I decided I didn't like chemistry. I just didn't like the way the chemistry was taught there. Everything was super fast. Like, it was like they were trying to weed people out. And I get that. There's like 300 students in this one classroom for this one teacher, and like the collections are 50 minutes. They're just they're basically just putting people through it and getting people out, because so many people need to take chemistry. And And I failed chemistry, but I didn't fail chem lab, thankfully, so I didn't have to retake that. But because my first semester at A&M, so it's a long story. So I get there at A&M like a couple days before they start school, and I wanted to join this leadership school also, but I didn't realize I was supposed to show up to leadership school a week earlier. But I still was able to get in, and that the previous. So I get into this leadership school. You know, uh, I'm studying nuclear engineering, and I'm being completely oblivious to my capability of being able to do things in a reasonable amount of time, or like I lose I guess the ability to realize, okay, how much can I actually put on my plate so I can eat it all. So I sign up for 17 credit hours at this university. I also was in this leadership school that probably took about, I would say, 5 hours of every day, except for Saturdays and some like 1 hour on. So basically, on average, I would say 4 hours every day, 7 days a week, on average, is how much time I spent in this leadership school. And then all the other time was spent for actual school, for my 17 credit hours of engineering coursework. And that was my first semester. I got my ass kicked by the leadership school and the and the nuclear engineering classes. I had to drop calculus 3. I got a D in chemistry. I got C's in pretty much all my other classes. But I did pass my first semester at that leadership school. Like I didn't, or not pass, but like I didn't quit. Like as long as you don't quit and you keep going, like they don't test you. Like there are like PT tests, I guess, but that's just that's not like determine your eligibility or anything like that. Anyways, it was hard just doing all that at once. And after that first semester, I was like, oh crap, I underestimated how easy this would be. Or I guess overestimated how I underestimated how hard this would be. That's probably what I meant to say. Uh, yeah, I definitely didn't have the time. I didn't have. I definitely didn't have I guess, the energy to do all of it, because I mean, technically, I had the time, but I just, I needed to sleep, so it was. It was a matter of, do I want to get sleep so when I wake up tomorrow morning, I can show up on time everywhere and not get hazed the crap out of the school, or do I want to out of leadership school, or do I want to stay up, go to bed early, not get as good of grades in my actual school? It was a tough decision. I'm glad I finished out that leadership school. It was a very good experience, but it definitely hit my grades really, really hard. But I spent about 3.5 years in that leadership school while also taking nuclear engineering classes. And after I finished the leadership school, I moved into an apartment because we had to live in a dorm basically with everybody, because it's kind of like a barracks at a military. Everyone's just living in the same place, and we get out and we do stuff together, and like early in the morning, 5 o'clock. We wake up at like 5:15 in the morning. We do stuff, and then we do stuff till about 7:30, 7:45 in the morning, and then we do stuff in the afternoon from like about 4:30 to 7:30, 7:15 ish. I don't remember. It depended on the day. I also made another huge mistake. So we had a day, I guess, out of the 5 days of the week, there was a morning and afternoon activity that we had to do for this leadership school. There was one day, though, where there was no afternoon activities. It was like, oh, you have the day off today. So in my great wisdom, I decided, oh, that looks like a great place to put Chem Lab, because I didn't realize you could put classes over the leadership school activities in the afternoon if you had to. So instead of doing the leadership activities, I would do school instead. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I have to show up to these activities. I didn't realize I could put Chem Lab there. So the day off I had, where I was supposed to relax and study more in my other classes, I put freaking Chem Lab down, which is a 2-hour class. It was bad. But yeah, that's my first semester of college was. I don't even remember half of it, and I was sober the whole time.
No, you were drunk on sleep deprivation from the sounds of it.
I got drunk once, and I was at my 21st birthday party. I got absolutely shit-faced and blacked out. I was dry heaving everywhere because I was like, "Oh, alcohol's not bad. I'll just drink all this alcohol. I can keep drinking." And then it hit me really hard. And then the next morning, I got 2 hours of sleep or something, and then I wake up the next morning to do leadership activities, and I'm drunk, and I don't even know it. And at the time, this was my second semester, so I was training the first semester people now. And yeah, it was just funny. There's a lot of stuff that about that I would have to talk about to, I guess, explain the context of more finite details. But it was a wild ride. I spent one semester out after the leadership academy going to school, and I was like, I'm just burnt out. I've been in college. I was in college for 6 years, and there was other things I wanted to do in my life, and I wanted to get a job, get my own bank account, pay my own bills, because I'm 26 or 20 at the time. I was, I guess, 24. I'm not 26 yet, actually. I'm gonna be 26 this year. I was 24, and I don't have a job. I don't have, I'm still having my mom, having to buy me food because I don't have a job. She's also paying my apartment. I was like, okay, I am 24. I want to actually get a partner, someone who wants to spend the rest of their life with me. But no one's gonna want to spend the rest of their life with someone who's not taking care of themselves. So
you might be surprised. But I get the idea. You want to be able to provide and be an equal partner, not a burden on somebody. You don't want a new mommy. You want a partner.
And so I withdrew from school because I wasn't doing that good in my classes because I was just so stressed out by all these other things. And I came back, which if you don't know this, you can actually withdraw in the middle of a semester, which doesn't count as dropping out or anything like that. You have to give a reason why. You have to have a good reason why. It's probably different for other colleges, but that's what I did. I withdrew from college, which allowed me to preserve my GPA and not use up any of my drops to drop classes. So I withdrew, and then I came back to my home to spend Christmas with my mom, family, and then shortly after that, my dog passed away, and then my dog that I've had for a decade, and that hit me pretty hard. Then my friend had to move out of his house he was currently living in because he told me the water wasn't working or something like that. And I was like, yeah, sure. And he stayed for a couple months. And he moved out, and while he was staying there, I couldn't go back to College Station because it's my mom's house. I'm not gonna, ask my mom if my friend can crash at her place and then leave the house with him just anyway. So it'd be weird, and she didn't want that. So I stayed there. I got another job shortly after he left. I got offered a job. Someone was a salesman, came up to my door and offered me an interview. So I was like, okay, well, I have no job. I would be dumb not to accept this interview. So I go there. Turned out I liked the way the job worked, but I wasn't very good at it. So I was a salesman for about a couple months. And the way they, I guess, operated was however hard you work, we don't pay you hourly or anything like that. So you have to go out there and you have to sell stuff. And I was selling health insurance. It was supplemental health insurance, and people get all their money back after 25 years, while also being insured. I was like, oh, I can actually, I actually think this is a good idea. I would buy this, so yeah, I can sell it. But I didn't really sell it very well because I'm not a very good salesman. I'm good at talking to people in person, but I wasn't very good at actually being persistent and selling stuff to people. So I quit that job, and then I got another one, which I'm working now, but because of coronavirus, we're on where we've been put on hold. But all of that, like ever since I withdrew from college, I've been trying to turn this hobby of making 3D models, and like making tutorials and all that into, I guess, more of a not a job, but like something I can at least make money off of, so I can fund my own like stuff. Like I basically they'll commission me to make something, and I'll make it just with my little touch and flair to it, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and it's also something that's a good idea to get into. There's a lot of 3D modeling work going on out there, but if you have a little bit of an edge in terms of your technique, and I can already tell that you have the personality to do well there, so it's pretty neat. You'll have to send me the details about your other channel. Off the air.
Okay. But yeah, it's I don't know why I got into art. I never thought I'd be an artist, because like I go to school for a couple years for a STEM major, and I never thought I'd do art. But I guess it's like my perception of what art is, I guess, kind of changed. Everyone has their own perception of what art is. But I think it was just because like when I was in that leadership school, like one thing that was really harped on was to like not make any excuses, and to always like to set a goal and to achieve it no matter what. Like never quit, never say it's not possible, because if you say it's not possible, like no matter, even if it is possible, if you say it's not possible and you believe it's not possible, you're not going to do it. You're not going to be able to do it. And if that was harped on me so much, it's like once I left that school, or not even once I left, but even in the middle of me, in that school, like I had another job, and I would try to clean out the store of the inventory there because it was so messy, and everyone was like, "Oh, you can't do it," and I was like, "Fuck it, I can." And I just spent like 3 months cleaning it out, and I eventually got it so clean. The manager, who's been there for like 20 years, said he's never seen it so clean in his life. So it's just I've had this mindset with me of like I can't say something's impossible. I just got to keep trying and doing it until I get it to work. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to take my art to where it is. And another reason why I don't share it with people is just like people, I guess, they don't understand the context and the implications of what it is, and like how it's different, and why that's, I guess, important, or why it's a significant difference. So that's another reason why I don't tell people. It's just a lot of explaining to do, and I don't want to bore people. And I will say it is something that I'll catch people's ears if I tell them. Like I have told a few people, and it definitely catches their ear. But I guess explaining it any further than just telling them what it is, that's the part I have trouble with, and that's usually why I don't tell people.
That's why it's nice to be able to make a video about it and just leave it at that. Because then the people that are interested will keep on devouring the information that you're sharing. And the people that have no concept of the value of that, the time it takes to do what you're doing, the amount of creative thinking and problem solving that it takes to get where you are in your skill now, those people will just breeze on by. That's sort of one of the advantages of YouTube. Or they'll leave a stupid comment about how it's total trash and then go. And that's good, because that'll toughen you up for other critics that you're sure to run into with anything that you do with your life.
Well, that's actually another thing. Criticism is another thing I try to look at in a more positive way, because I'm not going to lie, I don't like getting negative criticism. I don't like people dunking on something I spent a lot of time on. But the way I look at it is like, okay, if someone's criticizing me, if it's positive criticism, I should accept it and use it to make myself a better person. Like, because if it's positive criticism and they're right, I shouldn't be mad at them. Or or I guess not be mad at them, but I shouldn't be mad at that fact that they're telling me something that I know is true, but or I may know is true, or whatever, and me choosing not to change myself, that's just going to make me feel worse about it, you know. So if they're giving me criticism that I know is not true, and or if it's like they're giving me criticism that's like is false criticism or something, or they don't know much about it, then I'll be like, okay, well they misunderstand or something, or they don't understand the whole thing, so I don't let it get to me. So I just I don't really get bugged too much by criticism. I mean, every now and then when someone's like, oh, this thing's garbage or something like that, uh, it will get to me. But like if someone gives me like positive criticism, like oh, that's not working too well, you should improve on that or something, or like that doesn't make me feel bad at all. But I'll still make efforts to improve if there's like even just a couple people that disapprove in any way, and if they're not specific about it, like I'll always try to sit there and be like, okay, what can I do to make this better? And I think that's a mindset if someone really wants to get into art that someone should have. But the thing is, like, my art's more kind of like engineering than it is actual art. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a very clear idea of if it's engineering or art. But it's not like I'm just drawing on a piece of paper. Uh, it's not like there's a standardized way to do this. Like what I do is like there's an algorithm I go through, and I try to improve upon that algorithm so I can come up with better results. And I try to find out all the quirks and the limitations of what it is I can do to achieve the ultimate goal. Because like many engineering projects, you'll have a goal, you'll have requirements that you need to meet, but you won't always know your limitations going in. Sometimes you'll know them, but along the road you'll run into a bump, and you're like, okay, how do we overcome this this barrier? And that's kind of one of the things that I've been spending most of my time on with the art, is overcoming these small barriers to, I guess, perfect what it is I'm trying to get to.
So what you've been doing and really devoting your passion to is polishing your craft. And that is a fantastic idea no matter what you do.
And I feel like if I had the mentality of like, oh, it's not I can't make it any better, or I can't, uh, I mean, it, I'll tell you what it is after afterwards, but or I'll even link you to my channel. But it's just it's been such a long haul, and some days I feel like I don't know how I can improve it, but then I'm like, okay, I can't have that attitude, so I'll take it like a break or something, and then I'll come back to it with a better mindset. Because having a negative mindset when you try to improve is just very counterproductive. Like if I want to improve on something and I go in without the attitude of I can improve this, then I don't do very well, and I end up just not. I end up hating every minute of working on whatever it is I'm trying to do. So taking those breaks, it's very. I find it very important.
Listening to you talk about what you've been up to in terms of War Thunder and 3D modeling work, are you familiar with Bacon Gaming at all?
I've heard of Bacon Gaming. I might have seen his videos.
Bacon makes War Thunder videos, and he's probably the biggest source of helicopters information in the War Thunder YouTube community. That's sort of like his specialty. And I happen to know that he does some 3D modeling as well. So you guys have some things in common. You guys should chat sometime. I think you would both get a little something out of that.
All right. Yeah, I've actually noticed like a lot. It's become a lot more 3D modeling. It's become a lot more common of a thing. It's not this, I guess, niche thing that only game developers and animators do. Like it's a much more common thing now amongst.
Well, there's a massive demand with all the automated manufacturing and everything else, it's a field that definitely needs fresh minds and hands at the controls.
Now, one thing I did want to do when I say younger, I mean like a year or two ago. One thing I wanted to do was get into firearm design and like come up with really like to I guess maybe reinvent the wheel. Like that's always something I've wanted to take a shot at, but I wouldn't know where to start. And then if I'm being honest, like I've lost a little bit of interest in firearms as I got older. Like when I was younger, I was like super into firearms, and I bought like every time I had enough money to get a gun, I would get one. I didn't even have a car. I didn't even buy a car. Instead of buying a car I had my first job, I bought a gun because I was that into guns. Um, and I have like 7, 8 now. I don't remember. I honestly I haven't shot them in a while. I do carry, but other than that, like one gun I carry around, I don't really do anything with my other guns just because it's just too expensive to shoot them, and I'm not that interested anymore. It's not that I don't like shooting guns. It's just I don't know. I guess maybe VR has kind of made me realize there's way more fun and interesting things to do. Plus, I want to shoot a gun in VR. It's like almost the same. It really is. Like, it's shooting a gun.
Except it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot safer. I don't have to drive like 30 minutes to a range and then pay $20 to get a booth, and then dump hundreds of dollars worth of ammo at a target. I mean, there's definitely like I definitely think practicing with a gun's a good thing if you're gonna own one. But me, like I've shot enough guns, and I'm good enough with my handgun that I feel safe carrying it around. And I know a lot of people probably who like carry around and train very religiously probably look down upon that, but I know what I'm capable of, and I know when and when I shouldn't use it if something were to happen. But yeah, I just lots of interest in guns, and so that's kind of why that idea just kind of dissipated over the past couple years.
That's ironic considering how many people that were never interested in guns, with the social turmoil that's going on right now, have been pushing their way into the into gun ownership and trying to figure out how these things work. And I grew up with guns and always loved them, always will. The smell of gunpowder is one of the finest smells in the world, especially when it's on your hands. And it's just too damn expensive, man. I'm spending my money on digital tanks instead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's guns are just they're an expensive hobby. They really are. Like, I mean, even at the cheapest part of the spectrum, which is probably like a 9mm handgun or 22, or maybe not 20, not including 22, like something that you would actually carry on you or use. I'm not saying you couldn't use a 22, but like when it comes to actual carrying a gun around, which is the number one thing most people should train for if they're going to do any training for guns, is handgun training, so that if they're carrying a handgun around specifically, they know how to use it. But yeah, even then 9mm ammo, I forget how expensive it is. It was like $20 a box for 50 rounds, but that was like years ago. I don't know if that's true today. So you're looking at in a range session, you're normally going to spend about 100 rounds, maybe more than that. So that's like $40 worth of ammo that you're shooting. And keep in mind, this is like the cheapest that you can go. If you're going, like I have a 308, and 100 rounds of 308 it's like $1 a round, if not more. It depends on the ammo you get. But yeah, it can get expensive, real expensive.
And then you fly a AH-1G in War Thunder with the dual miniguns in the chin, and you shoot out, what is it, like 2,400 rounds?
Yeah, it's a lot. I forget how much it is too. But yeah, It's a lot more fun to pretend to do things than to actually do them because it's just so much cheaper. It's a lot less work. Um, and I think repetition is sometimes like better than I guess the quality of the training. Like, I'm not saying quality over I'm not saying quantity over quality, but like being able to go in VR and practice shooting a VR pistol that's just like my real one, but it's in virtual reality. Like, yes, I'm not going to be able to reload it as realistically. There's not going to be any recoil, but I'm going to be able to practice sight alignment. I'm going to be able to practice, shooting with both eyes open. I'm going to be able to practice acquiring different targets at more than just a 15-degree angle. Because when you're at a gun range, you're shooting one direction. But you could, in a real life situation, you could have to be shooting, like, you might have to worry about more directions than just, one. You may not know where the target is. So in VR, being able to, like, you know, scan around and actually acquire a target or switch from one target to another, that's a very valuable thing to do. And to be able to do that every day for extended periods of time for no money, that's such a huge resource. And I think a lot of people who get into guns and train a lot, they don't really look at VR as a good option. And same thing when it comes to helicopters in VR, like flying a helicopter in real life. I definitely think if someone's going to be a helicopter pilot, they should fly a helicopter in real life. But I think it's if I was a helicopter pilot, I would imagine playing flight sims like War Thunder in VR may not be the most realistic thing. I don't know, but it at least would give you an insight of what your helicopter might be capable of doing, because you're not going to do really risky stuff in a real life helicopter because you don't want to crash or die. So
Are you
it's
ready? Are you ready to make your first $1 million?
well, what do you mean?
I've got $1 million idea for you. I'm going to give you totally free. You ready?
Okay.
You're going to be the guy that does the programming for a VR gun range or, training program where you put equipment onto your own firearm, a real firearm. So, there'd be some safety equipment involved, but that's super easy, block the breech and make sure the ammunition is out. And then people use their own firearm to train in VR.
That's pretty cool. That sounds like a good idea. And the problem, not problem, but there'd be a lot of complications because it depends on the tracking system. And on top of the tracking system, like you would need, I guess it wouldn't be that difficult.
Safing a firearm is super simple with a couple pieces of equipment. It's really important that it's done right, but you could put it into the hardware and the software, the way they work together, to where the gun has to be properly safed before they even start using it.
Well, one idea I did come up with, and I really like the concept of, is, so how in VR you have in VR shooters you have your gun, but instead of like being in a 3D world where instead of being like shooting like normal enemies or zombies or whatever, it's your computer screen, and you're using your mouse and a virtual keyboard to control your computer screen, and you have to shoot to click and to type on the keyboard. So it's like a gun range, but you're trying to do stuff on your computer. Like you're trying to you're in an Excel sheet and you're trying to type in something. So you shoot the square that you want to type into, and then you have to shoot the keyboard, and you have to do it. Does that make sense? Like, I think that'd be a great way to practice, VR gun training. And also it's somewhat productive, I guess, too. But you'd have to have something, I guess, practical to do, and that would make sense. You can't just watch a YouTube video and like occasionally hit the pause button. That's not adequate training. But something that you can do, if you have something to do on your computer, you want to do it, but you also want to like do VR gun stuff. Like, I think that'd be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, like a shooter's virtual keyboard, and you could just have it. You could have it work like a regular virtual keyboard, to where whatever you click on the screen is what the keyboard types, and you could just set it up in a VR environment, give the player a gun, and let them practice. That is a really cool, pretty simple, really accessible application. There's your second $1 million.
Okay, so how long has this call been going on?
Oh, we've been going for a while. You probably got stuff to do.
No, I don't have anything to do. My job was postponed until August, so all I've been doing is playing War Thunder and working on 3D models and getting fat, watching TV. I want to go back to my apartment and because I got my job in my hometown, so I've been living with my mom while I work here. But since I keep postponing my work, I think I'm just going to go back to my apartment and get a job there until this one decides it wants to start back up.
Yeah, these are definitely uncertain times.
But yeah, so I think I guess I'll link you to my YouTube channel, but the other one. Hold on one sec. Give me a sec.
Okay, I won't share it with everybody else. So I'll have
That's
to find
basically
it
what I
the
did.
old-fashioned way.
I found out a way to do something that people could have been doing a long time ago, but I guess no one did it. At least no one that I know of. I've spent a long time on the internet. I've looked around a lot, but I haven't found anybody who does anything else like this specifically. So that's why I say I'm the only person I know who does it, because I'm the only person that I know who does this.
Neat. I can't really contribute much to that part of the conversation, but
yeah. Oh yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of like when you're in the field and you've been spending a lot of time in that field, you sometimes don't think about like the way things should be done. You're just like, I'm just focused on making what I'm doing better. I'm not looking at, I guess, how can I undo everything I've learned and come up with a new way to do it. It's kind of like if I'm in a newspaper industry and TV or radio is becoming a thing. It's like, or maybe not becoming a thing, but it's like I wouldn't know to, like, if maybe I would know, but that's probably a terrible analogy. But I'm able to, I'm not able to, like, I guess, think outside like other people who aren't in the field can. If that makes sense, because like I'm kind of like I mentioned before, like if I accept something's not possible, it's not going to be possible. And when I'm in the field, like sometimes you have to accept some things, or maybe not sometimes, but like you definitely will develop a mindset of I can't do that. Like I'm not saying that people shouldn't have that mindset or should say that everything is possible, but like it's just a fact of reality. It's like you're going to come across things you're like, yeah, I don't know how that would be done, and you don't really have the motivation to to find out how to do it. You're worried about other things.
That makes sense. You're in your mid-20s. You got a whole world of experiences ahead of you, and the thing that I've really gotten, the impression I've gotten from you, is that you got a lot out of that leadership class. You have started working really hard on whatever it is that you're doing, and man, life has changed a lot for me since I was 25 or 24. So there's a whole lot coming up in your future. And
yeah, it's just made me realize, just like, what kind of, many people, they I feel like they can't find happiness, and I feel like there's a lot of things that we not only take for granted, but there's a lot of things we overvalue, and I think I think I've found what it is I truly value in life, and what things I've come to realize just aren't really worth it, or they don't matter.
So what's best in life, Bruce?
I mean, I feel like I shouldn't answer that because I'm still at my mom's house, and there's so many things that I would feel much better if I changed. But I would say definitely finding something to do that you're good at. Like that's definitely makes me really happy. Like, that makes me feel great about myself. Being able to do something that only I can do, and other people want me to do enough to they'd at least give me money to do it. But I don't really think that's just to me. I'm a very simple guy. I'm content with a lot of stuff. But it's like all purpose is derived from other people, and life is meaningless without any purpose. So what I'm trying to say here is like just doing something that involves other people in any way, like either you're working for people or they're working for you, or you're doing a job, like you're saving someone's life, or you're just making a pizza. Like it's just all like it's in my opinion that has meaning in life, no matter what you do. So I don't know if you know what I mean. But like just doing anything that involves another person, like from you don't have to be curing cancer. If you like flipping a pizza, in my opinion, that's just as valuable because other people want you to do that for them. You know, well, you don't flip pizzas. Sorry, you flip it a burger or make it a pizza. Um, it's like I'm content with anything in life. So I just realized that there's little gosh there's little value that I see in other things that people value a lot in life. I'm not naming anything specific. I'm being very general and vague when I say that, just because I just don't want to go into details about that. But yeah, that's just how I look at life now. Is if someone wants to pay me to do something, like that's a purpose in life. So, and if someone like if a bunch of people want me to do it, it's like, well, if it doesn't conflict with my morals or values, like I have a purpose in life now, and I'm happy with that.
So, I think I would sum up what you just said by saying
As not being alone. That's probably the best way. Just don't be alone in life.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, find something you're good at, become the best, make no excuses.
Well, I don't think that's necessary to be happy.
Well, become the best that you can be.
Yeah.
Because it feels good to get better, and it feels good to work toward being better instead of just to work to get it done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, find something you love, become the best that you can be. The only thing that really matters in life is people, and nothing else really matters.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean. It's like a lot of people they value these. I think people who buy a lot of stuff and don't focus on family, like I think they're missing out on a lot of happiness in their life. And that's I've over the years I have bought less and less like possessions that I guess don't really serve much of a purpose or a valuable purpose. Like I don't like to buy a bunch of fancy clothes. I guess I'm a very simple guy, but I also don't like buying a bunch of decorations and things. I just like to understand that like there's like an artistic value and people want to look more as presentable as possible and to show their wealth. But it's like I feel like a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter as much as other things that people don't focus on,
Yeah, and that seems like a pretty good place to wrap it up. I got to get back to helping out with the kids.
That's all right.
It's getting pretty busy. It looks like mommy wants to be able to relax some and make a little more noise. She's always more quiet than she needs to be when I'm doing this kind of stuff because I can edit out all the background noise. But Bruce, it's been really fun talking with you today, and I'm looking forward to making this into a video. So, well, making most of this into a video.
If you don't have to if you don't want to, man. It's okay. It's nice to talk with people about things. Doesn't really matter what it is. It's just nice talking with people in general.
You know what? I really mean it when I say it was nice talking with you. We'll have to hang out a little more on Discord. You know where to find me. And so I guess I'll wrap it up here. Say goodbye for everybody.
I'll see you later, Toshio, and anyone else who's been listening.
Yeah, and check out Bruce Leeroy's YouTube channel, the one that I'll be sharing with you. And If you're into that other thing that he's doing with 3D modeling, well, you probably already know who he is. So, all right, Bruce, I'll catch you later, man.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.